I was lying in his bed when he texted her "Good night, baby," right in front of me. Same fingers that had been on my skin 15 minutes earlier. Same breath still cooling on my neck. I laughed. I mean, what else could I do? Cry? Scream? I wasn't his girlfriend. I wasn't even his secret. I was just part of a stupid deal we made one night after too many drinks and not enough honesty. "Let's keep it simple," he'd said. "No feelings, no promises." And I agreed. God, I agreed. But what he didn't say was that I'd still have to watch him fall in love with someone who wasn't me. That I'd still hear him hum her name in his sleep, even while his arm was draped around me. That I'd become invisible by design, my own damn design. So when I saw her name light up his phone again, I did something reckless. Not because I wanted him back, but because I wanted her to know who she was in bed with. Who we were in bed with. Before I tell you what happened next, just make sure you're alone. This one hurts. It started with a look across a bar we'd both sworn we hated. One of those places that smelled like sticky tequila floors and unspoken regret. He was with some friends I knew, and I was already halfway through a margarita I didn't want. We locked eyes, and it wasn't fireworks. It was familiarity. That slow burn ache of, "Oh, you get it too, don't you?" We weren't strangers, not really. We had mutual friends, overlapping parties, a few shared inside jokes that only came out during group hangouts. But that night, something shifted. Maybe it was how tired we both were, tired of pretending, tired of waiting for something real. Or maybe it was just convenience. Whatever it was, we ended up in his apartment, kissing like we'd been doing it for years. Clothes came off fast. But what stayed on longer was the silence after, the kind that should have felt awkward but didn't. That's when he said it. "We're good at this," he mumbled against my shoulder, and I didn't ask what this was. I just agreed. The next morning, we sat on his bed with coffee that tasted like burnt boundaries. "Let's make a deal," he said, spinning his mug between his fingers. "We're both single. We both suck at relationships. So why not just be each other's outlet?" I raised an eyebrow, trying to act unbothered, even though my stomach flipped. "Like a situationship?" I asked. "No," he said too quickly. "No emotions. Just release. Escape. No dates. No cuddling unless it's post-sex and doesn't mean anything. No jealousy. And definitely no falling in love." I laughed. "That sounds like the beginning of a disaster movie." He grinned. "Then let's be the explosion." We sealed it with a pinky swear like idiots, two grown adults pretending feelings were optional. For a while, it worked. We saw each other on Thursdays mostly. Sometimes Sundays if the loneliness hit harder. We never texted too much. Just "You up?" or "My place?" Like ghosts checking in on each other. It was mechanical. Intentional. I even went on a few bad dates during those months, came home to his place, and we'd joke about them between the sheets. He'd tell me I deserved better, then tell me to turn over. I felt powerful. Detached. Safe. But then, small cracks started to show. Like when I got sick and didn't text him for a week. He showed up with soup and Tylenol, pretending it was no big deal. Or the time he held my hand a little too long after an argument I had with a friend. "I just didn't like seeing you upset," he said, eyes a little too soft. "We're still friends," I reminded him, like I was trying to cast a spell to keep us frozen. He nodded, but the air changed. Then came her. I met her at a birthday party. She was stunning, the kind of girl who wears vulnerability like perfume and doesn't realize she's intoxicating. He introduced us, casually, like he didn't spend his nights with me tangled in his sheets. "This is Jules," he said, and I noticed how careful he was to keep distance, not from her, but from me. I played it cool, smiled, made polite conversation. She laughed at my jokes. And when she walked away, I saw him watch her like he was seeing color for the first time. That night, when I asked him if something was going on, he shrugged. "She's cool. That's all." I nodded, then took his shirt off anyway. But I felt it, the way his mind was somewhere else. Over the next few weeks, I saw less of him. He'd cancel last minute. Or say he was tired. Once, he said he was seeing someone, but that we could still hang if I was cool with it. I wasn't. But I said I was. Because by then, I wasn't just in the deal. I was in it. In the ache. In the spiral. In love. And that's when I realized the rules we made were never meant to protect us. They were meant to distract us. To delay the pain, not avoid it. The final straw? I saw them together on a random Tuesday, walking down my street. Laughing. Holding hands. He didn't see me, but I saw everything. The way he looked at her like she was the first choice. The way he never looked at me. So I went home, laid in the bed where we made our deal, and planned something I wasn't proud of. Because if I couldn't have him, she deserved to know who had him first. The message I sent her wasn't cruel. It was surgical. Clean. Sharp enough to bleed, but dressed like honesty. "Hey," I typed, "this might be weird, but I figured you should know. I've been sleeping with Evan for the past 4 months. I didn't know you two were a thing until recently. Just thought you'd want the truth." I stared at the text for 20 minutes. Reread it 12 times. Changed sleeping with to hooking up with, then back again. I wanted her to feel it. Then I hit send. No emoji. No name sign off. Just the kind of bomb that doesn't tick, it explodes silently and burns everything after. I waited. Not for her reply, but for him. And I didn't have to wait long. 3 hours later, he was at my door, hair a mess, eyes wild, like he didn't know whether to kiss me or throw something. "What the hell did you do, Jules?" he spat, stepping inside without waiting for an invite. I told her the truth, I said, calm as still water, even though my pulse was a riot. "Isn't that what grown-ups do?" He ran a hand through his hair. "You knew what this was. You agreed." I laughed, bitter and brittle. "I agreed before I knew you were capable of lying to 2 people at once." He opened his mouth, then closed it. Like he realized that any version of this story made him the villain. "She's not texting me back," he mumbled. "She won't pick up either." "Good," I snapped. "Now you know how it feels to be invisible." He looked at me then, really looked at me, like he was seeing me for the first time in months. You were never invisible, Jules. Then why did you act like I was disposable? I didn't think it would get this messy. You thought feelings came with a warning label? I stepped closer, my voice cracking. I was there, Evan. Every week. You told me about your childhood, your parents, your fears. You let me in. But I didn't love you, he said, too fast. And there it was, the slice, clean through the center. He left that night. I didn't cry. Not yet. I just sat in the same bed, the one that still smelled like him, and I wondered if I had ruined her relationship, or if I'd just forced her to see it clearly. A few days later, I got a reply. Not from him, from her. Thank you for telling me. I had a feeling. I just didn't want to believe it. That was all. No follow-up. No confrontation. But it stuck to my ribs like cold shame. Weeks passed. The silence stretched. I didn't hear from Evan, and I didn't expect to. I threw myself into distractions, gym, friends, swiping left on every face that didn't look like his. But I kept thinking about her. Not out of guilt, but curiosity. Why did she stay silent? Why didn't she rage? Scream? One night, I got my answer. I ran into her at a bookstore. Of all places. She looked lighter, like someone who had walked away from a fire and didn't miss the heat. Hey, she said, her tone warm. Too warm. I blinked, caught off guard. Hi. I just wanted to say thanks. For telling me. You don't hate me? She shrugged. You were honest. That's more than I can say for him. We stood there, awkward, surrounded by fiction that made more sense than our lives. I'm not proud of what I did, I admitted. She nodded. Neither was I. I knew something was off. I ignored it. Then she smiled, soft and sad. But I'm glad he picked me. And that sentence, hit harder than anything Evan ever said. Because it wasn't forgiveness. It was a subtle knife, hidden under grace. She won. Even after everything. That night, I went home and finally cried. Not for Evan. Not for her. For myself. For the version of me who thought a deal could replace love. Who thought being the exception meant being enough. But I wasn't done. Because even broken hearts sometimes want revenge. Not against others. But against the version of ourselves who let it all happen. Revenge isn't always fireworks and public scenes. Sometimes it's quieter, a slow poisoning of someone's peace, masked as grace. I didn't want to hurt Evan. Not physically. Not even emotionally. I just wanted him to feel what I felt. That silent gnawing inside your gut when you realize someone moved on without needing to look back. That kind of pain leaves a scar no one can see, and I wanted to give him one. So, I started with the thing he cared most about, his image. Evan wasn't just some guy hooking up with two women, he was a good guy. The kind who always posted about mental health awareness, who told his friends he respected women, who called out his bros for toxic behavior. That image? I shattered it. Piece by piece. I knew who to talk to, what screenshots to share, what group chats to quietly drop information in. I didn't need to lie, truth was heavy enough. But I didn't do it all at once. I let it bleed out slow, like a drip feed of realization for everyone around him. First his roommate. Then his best friend's girlfriend. Then the girl he was talking to next. "Oh, I thought you knew," I'd say sweetly, sending a screenshot of his deal with me. "He told me you guys weren't serious, every message was coated in sugar, every word reasonable." The worst revenge is the kind that makes people question their own judgment. And Evan? He started unraveling. He texted once, a wall of guilt, anger, and confusion. "Why are you doing this to me? I was honest with you." I replied, "No, you were honest with the rules. You forgot to be honest with the feelings." After that, silence. Not from me. From him. He disappeared off socials for a while. I heard from someone that he lost a job opportunity. Apparently, the HR girl had heard things. I didn't orchestrate that one. But I didn't stop it either. But here's the twist no one saw coming: I didn't feel better. Not really. I thought revenge would taste like closure, like a meal you wait all day for. But it tasted like ashes. Empty. And then, he called. I almost didn't pick up. But curiosity is its own poison. "Jules," he said, his voice thinner than I remembered. "Can we talk?" "About what?" I messed up. "You think?" He sighed. "I didn't fall in love with her. I thought I did, but it was guilt. And shame. She made me feel clean. You made me feel real. And I didn't know how to sit with that." I laughed. "Cold. You're not calling to apologize. You're calling to be forgiven." "No," he whispered. "I'm calling because I hate myself. And somehow, I still miss you." I should have hung up. I should have told him to go drown in his own mess. But instead, I said, "Meet me tomorrow." Sunset. The bench behind Piermont Cafe. I don't know why. Closure? Curiosity? Maybe I just wanted to see what regret looked like in person. He showed up late, of course. Same messy hair, same desperate eyes. He sat beside me and didn't say anything for a full minute. "I was scared of loving you," he finally said. "Because you saw all the parts of me that I don't like." I turned to him. I loved those parts. That was the problem. He looked at me, broken in all the ways I used to want to fix. "Do you think you'll ever forgive me?" And I said, "I already did. But I'll never forget you." He tried to touch my hand, and I pulled away. "That chapter's closed, Evan." He nodded, tears in his eyes. "So this is goodbye?" I stood up. "This is me finally choosing me." I walked away without looking back. But the thing about heartbreak is, even when you win, you don't feel victorious. You just feel tired. And in that exhaustion, I found my peace. You don't realize how far you've bent until you're already broken. I thought I was in control. I thought I could handle being just physical, thought I was strong enough to separate my body from my heart. But the truth? I didn't want him because he treated me well. I wanted him because he didn't. I mistook his neglect for mystery, his inconsistency for depth. And the deeper I fell, the more I convinced myself that crumbs were a feast. I used to check my phone constantly, waiting for a "you up?" text like it was poetry. I rearranged my life for him. Skipped birthdays, lied to friends, pushed away men who genuinely cared because they didn't make my stomach flip with anxiety. That's what I thought love was: anxious attachment wrapped in late-night affection. And somewhere along the way, I confused survival with passion. But after I walked away from him that evening, after I said goodbye with a steady voice and shaking hands, I sat alone in my car and stared at my reflection in the mirror. I didn't recognize her. Eyes a little duller. Mouth that used to smile without effort. I whispered to myself, "You let him turn you into a secret, and you called it love." And that's what haunted me the most. Not that he betrayed me. Not even that he chose someone else. But that I chose me so late. The worst part about loving someone who doesn't love you back is how it teaches you to hate yourself in whispers. I started questioning my worth, my desirability, my very identity. Was I too much? Not enough? Did I love him into hating me? But none of that was true. He didn't love me because he didn't know how to love anyone without control. And I stayed because I didn't know how to love myself without someone else's validation. I started therapy. Not to fix myself, I wasn't broken. Just bruised in places I couldn't name. My therapist asked, "What did loving him cost you?" And I didn't answer for 2 full minutes. Because the answer was everything I never thought I'd give up. Time. Energy. Peace. The way I used to laugh without needing someone else to see me. I slowly started reclaiming my life. I blocked his number. Deleted the photos. Told the story to friends, not as gossip, but as a warning. I started flirting again, clumsily. Not to replace him, but to remember I could. I went on long walks with no destination. I read books that didn't remind me of him. And eventually, I stopped checking his socials. I stopped wondering who he was with. Because it didn't matter anymore. Months later, I saw him at a party. He looked tired. Not the sexy kind, the soul kind. We made eye contact. He gave me that familiar half smile, like he expected a wave or a nod. I gave him nothing. Not out of anger. Out of peace. I didn't owe him my acknowledgement. He was a ghost, and I was no longer haunted. You know what no one tells you about healing? It's boring. It's mundane. It's not dramatic or cinematic. It's drinking enough water. Turning off your phone at night. Not texting the person who hurt you just because you feel lonely. Healing is watching a storm roll in and not mistaking it for romance. I loved Evan. I really did. But I loved him more than I loved myself. And that's the part one won't repeat. If you're watching this, and you're in something that's eating you from the inside out, I hope you hear me. Love should never feel like a war you lose alone. It should never make you shrink. And if it does, that's not love. That's abandonment, dressed in your favorite scent. Now, I sleep alone. I eat alone. I dance alone in my kitchen with the lights off and the music loud. And I've never felt more whole. Because I didn't need him to complete me. I just needed to leave to remember I was never incomplete. This was our story. But now, it's just mine.